Greetings, everyone.
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
Oh, no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
you know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What's up, you ducks? It's week 1, all in football rankings with Jeff Ratcliffe and myself. I love the fact that we've already got people in the comments already waiting for the show to start. This is week 1. We're excited. It's here. Football tomorrow. We have one more night's sleep, and we wake up tomorrow, Jeff, and football is here. Just over 24 hours away, football is here, unless you're watching this after the fact, which, by the way, last night, probably to get in, there's a 25% bonus that I've actually done, Jeff. I don't know if you've done any of them. We're at Drafters. I did one. I ended up in the same draft as Chris Meany, but a best ball, a lot of overlay if you want to get involved in that. And a reminder, if you go to theathletic.com/, all, or wait, no, I was about to say all in football. It's BetsTV, all capitals, BetsTV, first free month over there. So you can get the rankings for week 1. Make sure you're checking out Jeff's content too, at Jeff Ratcliffe and, FTN and all your good stuff. But Jeff, is this Christmas Eve tonight, or is Christmas Eve Monday and it's like Christmas Eve, and tomorrow's Christmas?
That's a lot of Christmas Eves. I think it is in a lot of ways Christmas Eve, though, because we get our first glimpse of what things are actually going to be like here in 2021. But at the same time, crazy stuff happens in week 1. And every year we see people overreact to everything that happens in week 1. I get it. We're football starved, but we have to take this for what it is. There are a lot of players who will be playing in actual in-game action for the first time. Guys who did not play in the preseason this year. So we definitely have to slow our roll a little bit. Don't overreact to everything you see in week 1, but at the same time, it is going to be a good ride. I really can't wait until Sunday. Now, I won't be home until about 1:45 Eastern because I have to come back from New York City after the show on Sunday. But, man, I can't wait to sit down and watch some football. There's nothing better than when all those games are on at the same time on a Sunday.
Are you the type of person that tries to watch, like, the 8 box on DirecTV? Or
No.
I can't do that. I end up just focusing on like 1 or 2 at most. So I have 2 TVs down here. Usually one's on Red Zone and then one's on the game that I want to watch.
Yeah, I watch back every game on Monday. So, no sense in doing
Same
that
thing.
for
So
me.
yeah,
I watch Red Zone, enjoy it, sit there, take as many notes as possible to get ready for Monday. But, hey, it's fun when it's the job, but also you have to appreciate it. And I think that's good just in general for people out there. Remember, we're playing this game. We're lucky enough to be playing this game. And we are seeing people who, in some instances, we're going to be talking about forever. Like once eventually Tom Brady retires, we're going to be talking about him forever. We're getting to see that. We just saw this golden age of quarterbacks who literally were a part of the transformation of the NFL over the last 20 years. Appreciate the moments, appreciate the football while we get to see it.
You know what I appreciate, Jeff? Even more than that Le'Veon Bell is going to be number 1 in my ranks because he's back.
Pick him up.
Pick him up. It's so great. Real quick before we get to the week 1 rankings, I do, tongue-in-cheek aside, you know what? I will say this, Jeff. There's 2 parts to this. One is rolling my eyes 1,000 times over at this. I still would take Taysom Williams over him just because of what we've seen last year from Le'Veon Bell. I hope I'm wrong about Le'Veon Bell. As a player, I've always rooted and had fun for Le'Veon Bell on my fantasy teams. I hope there's life left in that gas tank. I just kind of put 2 metaphors together. But I kind of hope that there's something there. But just to get this out of the way for everybody out there, 1, are you concerned about all Gus? I'm not. 2, would you go Williams over Le'Veon Bell like I am? Or do you still think that there's potential more that is potentially there for a fit-wise?
I want to, answer the question with a question just to frame this because I think we need to be in the right state of mind. And by we, I mean the collective fantasy playing public. When has an aging running back who hasn't shown anything on the football field really for 3 years ever done anything for fantasy football purposes other than entice us and ultimately let us down? Has it ever happened?
I'm going back. Wait. I might have one. Who was the one? The one from the Jets that ended up in the Patriots for like a brief spell after the
Curtis Martin.
Thank you. Wasn't he
Curtis
like
Martin
kind of? He was bad for like 2 years, wasn't he? I gotta go back and look. But that would be like the only one. I'm trying to remember if Curtis Martin even had.
That's pretty far back. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And I think the other thing too here is. He was still in the Jets when it happened. It was well after New England. He just bounced back at 30 and 31 after the down year at 29. So he doesn't count either. Yeah, it's just something that doesn't commonly happen. I know people gravitate towards the name, and also, something we mentioned last week. I said this a couple times on this show. Just because something happens in the NFL doesn't mean you have to react to it. You don't have to pick up Le'Veon Bell, who, by the way, is still on the practice squad and may never actually be signed to the active roster.
On the practice squad, and they signed it, activated immediately, Trenton Cannon. Like
a much younger back who is just a guy. He's just a guy type of Jag, but that doesn't really bode well, and
it doesn't.
I have a lot of people asking me if they should be picking up Le'Veon Bell, and then they'll say, I don't know, like Bryan Edwards is on waivers, and he's a deep name, but still, or guys who are even higher than that in wide receiver rankings. I'd rather take the stab on the wide receivers. Yes, you're thin at running back. We all are thin at running back because the NFL is thin at running back, but I'd rather be chock full of wide receivers than pick up, these guys. And this, I know this is tilting so many people. What is with Carlos Hyde? Why are we rostering him? It's the same exact argument. Carlos Hyde had a career year, 2 years ago with the Texans, right? His only 1,000-yard season. He finished RB28 in a career year, and we're rostering him because he's the handcuff? I hate to poke fun.
How am I the friendly one on the show today?
I get fired up at this time of year, man.
Week one fired. I love it, honestly. I will say I am. I'll save James Robinson because I do want to talk about James Robinson because there's an interesting situation with that. But so what I want to start with is underrated potential starters. See what you feel about those, and then some tough and interesting calls. Like Jeff and I talked about a few weeks ago. This will be the theme of the show. We're not going to go through and be like, here's Jeff's ranks, here's my ranks, here's where we differ. Because it's Wednesday. I know we're excited too, but you've only got 2 teams going tomorrow before you have to set your entire lineup on Sunday. Things can change. We update our rankings, check both of our sites to make sure you're getting them updated, and check everything all the way up to kickoff. But kind of these tough decisions people have to make. I will say there's one real quick one on waivers, Jeff. If you only had one waiver pickup, would you pick up Tony Jones or Tyson Williams?
Probably Jones. It's 6 and 1, half a dozen the other, though. So hopefully I have 2 leagues where I have that decision. And I pick up one and the other.
People have thrown that. I thought I was the only one that had that saying still used these days because it's kind of an old saying. That's 2 days in a row. Somebody's thrown that back at me. It was actually Michael Beller yesterday and you today.
It's the same. It's the same guy though. Really, you're just picking up a handcuff. You're not picking up somebody who we're going to be able to use.
You're picking up who intentionally, or for all intents and purposes, it's whoever gets hurt first. Yeah. So that's really what's going to come down to. All right. You know what? Let me hit a couple quick questions before we get to the underrated. Yes, Alex Bernstein. I appreciate that. 3 likes. Gets more likes. They might be up more. No, I don't watch the YouTube channel because I'm watching Jeff on the video to make sure I'm watching him, and I've got the rundown, and I've got my rankings up. So I don't know how many likes we have right now, but yeah, like it, subscribe, thumbs up, hit the bell, and all that good stuff because it just helps us. And the more we get that, the more we can do more free shows. Phil Mike is putting off working for this. Yes. So Matthew DuPont, here's actually a question, Jeff. He has the Colts and the Seahawks defense. Would you drop them for the Chargers, Packers, or Panthers instead this week? And Jeff, I ran through those real quick for 2 reasons. So I did
the eye thing for another reason, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. So he has not the Colts and Seahawks. He has the Colts versus the Seahawks. So that's why the question. Would you drop them for the Chargers, Packers, or Panthers? So I'm going with the Packers as one of my favorite potential matchups this week, even in a potential shootout, because we know Winston could potentially turn the ball over. And not even he might be better under Sean Payton, but also look at his 1 and 2 receivers, it's Callaway and Smith. I mean, that could just lead to turnovers not being on the same page. But I'll say this, Jeff, are you the type of person that if you don't get a Buccaneers defense or something like that you roster too early in the season until you figure things out, or do you just play matchups right out of the gate?
Matchups right out of the gate. I'm not going to waste a bench spot on a defense, especially in a lot of leagues where you only have 6 bench spots. I like to play chess, not checkers. If you're rostering 2 defenses, you're playing checkers, and the people who play in chess in your league are going to dominate you. So I agree with you. The name of the game, unfortunately, with defense, the antiquated scoring system, the stupid, ridiculous scoring system that we use for fantasy defenses. Why in the world do we start with points? We don't do that with any other position. It's because people were doing it from USA Today by hand. It was easier that way. We need a new scoring system. Make that happen first and foremost. But secondly, all we're doing is trying to get turnovers, because the only way you really score any points with defense is if you have takeaways that result in touchdowns. Jameis Winston is in a good spot under Sean Payton. I agree. He is also still Jameis Winston. He thinks he can make every throw in the field, which I like that mindset. That's where the interceptions come from. That's a better thing than being passive and check down Charlie. But at the same time, I don't think it goes away right away. And he's going to try and force the ball to Callaway, who's very likely going to see plenty of Jair Alexander here, and good luck. You got the big body corner, Kevin King, on the other side. Good luck. Good luck, Jameis. If you try to force any balls in there, there's going to be takeaway city. So I'm with you. I like the Packers a lot this week.
There are two things. So I've revamped my home scoring and defense a long time ago. Like we get points for yards, the fewer yards, because that's part of it. Points, the sacks, and those things, those numbers are kind of off in general. Like I wrote the whole article on it and like all those type of things, but like the turnovers and all that type of stuff. There's like, why is 2 points for a safety and 2 points for an interception? How many times does a safety happen? Like the scoring just doesn't make sense. But where I'm with you, Jeff, is this, and for everybody out there too, is one of the two, I look at two things primarily. There's a lot of things I look at, but the two primary things I look for is adjusted sack rate, and then I'm looking for, like you said, the potential turnovers, but I don't try to predict turnovers. I look for what we're talking about right here with the Saints. I'm looking for a team that's going to need to be aggressive, run a lot of plays, likely have to pass a lot, and that opportunity, if you get the adjusted sack rate on top of that, boom. Mash those two up together. Those are great. So pressure rate too, depending on what site you're looking at. Let's see if we have any more of these real quick before we jump into that. Here's one. A lot of people did this. I love that people do this in their drafts. They wait till week 1 to pick up a kicker or defense. If you're smart, you're not playing with kickers, period. But so this one, I have no defense. Who do you drop? This is an interesting one. It's two of the guys we already talked about, Jeff. If you have to drop for a defense, are you cutting Jamal Williams? I say way no on Jamal Williams. So it comes down to, do you cut Tyson or Tony Jones? And it sounds like you're leaning Tyson over Tony Jones.
Yeah, barely. It's almost a coin flip. But yeah, if I had to, that would be the direction I'm going in. There's two different things happening here, right? In New Orleans, we have the team cutting a longstanding veteran, which is a vote of confidence for Jones. In Baltimore, now granted, you lose Justice Hill, but you're still bringing in backs left and right. They had a claim in for Royce Freeman even before all of this. It's not necessarily a vote of confidence. So that's the tiebreaker for me.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. All right, let's see. We could get two more in here real quick. Would you start Robbie Anderson or Brandon Cooks in the flex? I love Brandon Cooks this year. You know that. And just because of the volume. I don't even care if he catches 50%. It's just the volume. But Robbie Anderson, how do you have that's a good drafting if you're making this decision already.
Yeah, I like Robbie Anderson just barely. They're both wide receiver 3s for me this week.
I'm seeing where I have them.
I mean, the revenge game narrative is silly, but I'm going to pimp that anyway. I think but really you're looking at a Jets defense with one of the worst secondaries in the league. And I am curious. I really am curious of what Sam Darnold looks like piloting that offense. We know what it looked like with Teddy. It's not going to look any worse, I don't think. And that's not that Teddy was that bad, but could it be a little bit more explosive because Darnold can push the ball? That's what I'm saying. Darnold can push the ball downfield, so I'm going to shoot for that. It's the same reason why this week I love punting with Terrace Marshall in DFS. I'm not going to play him in season long, but in DFS when he's min priced, I mean, why not?
Yeah. All right. So last one. Steven Skrezina. I don't know how to say it. Sorry, Steven. I just butchered your last name, but I was also going to say play in a bigger league unless you just are so much smarter than everybody else, because he only needs one, Jeff. David Montgomery, Darrell Henderson, or Gus Bus.
So who's your top wideout? Like Antonio Brown or something? I mean, would you go RB?
I mean, if you draft it early, you can see how you get Edwards late, and maybe this was before the Cam Akers. I could see how this ended up, but I got to tell you, until otherwise, I will have Gus Edwards as a fringe RB1. He doesn't get involved in the passing game. He's essentially Derrick Henry in that volume, but you know what? Volume. I like Montgomery. I like Henderson. I love Henderson, but I'm looking right now. I have Edwards at 14, Montgomery 19, Henderson at 22 because I don't trust him also against the Bears.
Yeah, let's see. I'm scrolling down here. So Gus Bus and Montgomery are back to back for me, but I got Monty ahead. I don't love the play. I really don't, but it's a volume play. I just get worried when you have a quarterback who can carry the ball as many times as Lamar can, that the volume might not quite be there. Also, not having Tariq Cohen out there, I do expect plenty of Williams, but is there a little bit more of Monty in the passing game? It's a brutal matchup. There's no way around that, but I'm leaning just slightly there. It's another coin flip. If I had to pick, it'd be Monty, and I don't love it.
Nah, come on. The wheels on the bus go number one. That's terrible, isn't it? I see you're shaking your head. Rory, thanks for the shout out. I actually know Rory personally, but also I don't know if a comment like that might get me some thumbs down. So for everybody that's on YouTube who knows what I'm talking about. All right. I want to talk some underrated potential starters. It's week 1, Jeff, so hopefully you don't have to dig too deep. For my column over The Athletic, I even said these are sleepers. And when I say sleepers, you say probably the same thing, I'm assuming, because we're both smart. But sleepers mean potential upside, more risk. You don't start them over stalwarts. So why I say this, I'll even say my quarterback to start is not even a QB1. He's QB 14, not that far off the list. But if you wait on a quarterback, you win everything else. I think Kirk Cousins is a nice situation. I actually love this game on both sides, Jeff. I mean, I'm talking if you want to bet the over, it's still a very high over to start with. But if you want to, I lean towards the over. I like all the wide receivers in this game, including Jamar Chase, the fact that he's been dropping the ball. I love the backfields. I just love everything because it's the Vikings defense versus the Bengals defense, which are both pretty bad. And Kirk Cousins last year was QB 12 in points per game. Has Kirk Cousins now replaced Ryan Tannehill as the most underrated quarterback in fantasy? Because Tannehill's off the list. Everybody's giving Tannehill respect now.
Yeah, I don't know, underrated or underappreciated, maybe something along those lines, because you look at the production over the course of his career, it's not bad. I know he's the butt of a lot of jokes at times, and he's a guy who, he's on a waiver wire in a lot of leagues. It's widely available. You could have went out and got him and then shot for the moon with Justin Fields, Trey Lance, whoever, Jameis Winston in the late rounds, and you're good. That's a nice little start to the season for him. I agree with you here. But I do also want to note, if you're trying to see through the matrix and trying to decipher fantasy football and you mess with fantasy football, you're going to lose every time. Like that one time when you guessed right, that's it, but it's not going to happen. I literally had somebody trying to overthink and they said, should I start McCole Hardman because I had Patrick Mahomes over Brandon Ayuk? And it's like, bro, no. I get you want to stack, but seriously, slow your roll a little bit and keep Ayuk in there, right? If you have somebody better, if you have a top 12 option, you're not starting Kirk Cousins.
No.
It's just
not
not
I want to
happening.
bring up the other point that you just kind of alluded to there is it's not just also the stacking is don't start somebody because of your opponent. Never start your lineup based on your opponent. Because I'll see the same thing you just said. A perfect example would be bring those 2 receivers back. Actually, you know what? Let's even go higher than Ayuk because people will be like, well, Ayuk's not 100%. So let's say Cooper Kupp. Should I bench Cooper Kupp for Mecole Hardman because my opponent has Patrick Mahomes? No, don't ever set your lineup based on your opponent. Now, if you evaluate your own roster, and I'm not going to say Cooper Kupp ever sits for Mecole Hardman, but I'm saying if you evaluate your own roster and you have a toss-up and one of them has a high ceiling and a very low floor, and you feel like your roster needs that, again, ignoring your opponent's lineup, you can go that route, but don't set your lineup based on what your opponent started.
100%. It's an amateur mistake. Your objective is not to somehow correlate to your opponent's lineup. It's to score more points than your opponent. And sometimes we forget about the simple thing. Like after the fact, and I can say this and people will be like, duh, Ratcliffe. Start the guys who are going to score more points. And I'm not talking about like we know the future, we know these guys are going to score more points. It's start the guys who are most likely to score more points. If we play this week out 10,000 times, how many times McCole Hardman outscore Cooper Kupp? What, like 20% of the time, 15% of the time?
Yeah, I was gonna say 50. I was gonna be generous.
50.
Like
50 out of 1,000.
Out of 1,000.
Oh,
yeah.
1,000. Yeah. I maybe it is even more like that. Maybe I was being too generous there. We're playing on percentages. It's, you can think, feel, or believe whatever you want in your life, right? But if you think, feel, and believe and you make start sit decisions based on that, you are going to be wrong a lot. And definitely don't do that for betting because you're the reason why sports books are in business. But use the odds. Use the percentages to your advantage.
Quick sidebar. Did you see the dude that bet 14 college games unders $10 and won almost 80,000? Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Oh yeah, he bet
done.
14 unders this to start week 1 for $10 and hit almost $80,000. It was like 78 and change. Yeah, it was nice. Of course, everybody knows about it now. But anyway, all right. So let's talk running backs. I think there's 2 interesting. Well, actually, potentially 3. But the first one, I feel like some people would be like, "No kidding, Jake," because people were drafting Trey Sermon so high. But at the same time, I think people now have understood and see the fact that like we're looking at a timeshare until one of them gets hurt. But who are they facing? And this is going to be a grind out the clock. We're in control by the second half. This is one of the weeks that I feel confident starting Mostert and Sermon as both being top 25, at worst, top 30 running backs. And that's with everybody on the slate in week 1. I'm still confident that both of them can hit the top 30.
I have Sermon just outside of the top 30, so I'm right there. I'm in 32 right now. Rankings are obviously quite fluid early in the week. I often, Jake, I don't know about you, but I use the early rankings to more or less make some statements as opposed to being 100% accurate, or whatever, as accurate as I can be. I make some statements at times, and I will purposely put a guy who is outside of the wide receiver 2s at 25, for example, to make that statement. He's a mid-range to back-end RB2 or RB3 for me, a flex-worthy type guy. But I am pretty bullish on Mostert, at least out of the gate. If Mostert is healthy, and you said, hey, Raheem Mostert's going to be healthy the whole season, I would have been drafting him. I love Raheem Mostert, but I can't necessarily guarantee that. And I think the team is kind of in a lot of ways thinking along those lines, or else they wouldn't have traded up to get Sermon. So for now, yeah, I do like Mostert a lot. I actually have him at 21 right now in my rankings. So I'm a little bit bullish on him.
Jeff, I'm going to push back. Why do you hate Raheem Mostert?
Is that why do you have him higher?
I have him at 16. So
wow.
No, but that's I'm joking because Jeff knows we get that every single year. Like you have somebody lower. We hate all of your players. We only like ours. We don't like it.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing that I keep pushing back with Jeff, I completely agree with you. I've said since the draft, as soon as they drafted Trey Sermon, I said he right now is the most talented running back in that backfield. We know that doesn't really matter a whole lot under Shanahan, but everybody always says the same thing you did. I've said the same thing. Imagine Sermon if Mostert gets hurt, as he has for most years. But I push back with this, Jeff. What if Sermon gets hurt? And all of a sudden Mostert's getting 20. And that's what I'm saying. Don't be scared away from Mostert at the value he was going. I know there's still a few drafts left on Wednesday night. A lot of people wait till that last night before we get into the season. That's why I bring it up. This one, Jeff, I don't own a single share of Chase Edmonds. And this goes back, and I want to preface this with, out of college, you can go back and look. I was a Chase Edmonds fan. But the thing that held me off of Chase Edmonds this year is the same thing I said when he came out of college. He's a timeshare piece. He's never going to work the ball 20-plus times a game. He's only had 3 opportunities that the Cardinals gave him, with plenty of opportunities to have it happen, where he even carried the ball over 8 times, 11 and then 20-plus, 20-plus. And I know everybody's like, well, you just said he can't do 20-plus. They didn't want him. They had no other options in those scenarios. And I say all that to say, while James Conner is healthy, I think this is going to be Chase Edmonds more valuable, but it's going to be frustrating at some games, especially if they're grinding out the clock with James Conner. But in this scenario, this week, with the efficient Titans offense, I feel like they're going to have to pass, and this is a Chase Edmonds game. Are you with me on Chase Edmonds this week?
As a flex option, I guess. I'm like you. Yeah. I don't have him. I don't have him anywhere. And I'll tell you well, I guess I could say 3 words as to why. Duke Johnson Jr. That's what he is. He's Duke Johnson. He's that type of player. He's the exact same type of guy, or Giovanni Bernard, or whoever. Those guys
They're
are
all the
so
same.
volatile week over week. Yes, there's weeks where they can have 8 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, but if they don't get those catches, and you're right, in a game script like this, okay, but in a game script where they're out to the lead, it's going to be James Conner time, and people are going to be pulling their hair out. Chase Edmonds sucks. He just isn't getting it done for me. Should I drop Chase Edmonds? We know it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. But yeah, I think he's flex worthy this week. You just have to know what you have with these guys. And with Edmonds, committee back, who's more of a passing down option, you could say free Chase Edmonds is what as much as you want on Twitter. Cliff Kingsbury doesn't care. He's not going to do it.
No, he's sitting in that awesome room probably just laughing. We need to all just like have a draft party at Cliff Kingsbury's house. Jets running backs. I just put a question mark here because one thing we think we know, and I say think because it looks like Michael Carter's third. If Michael Carter ended up being the top, like, where's this system coming from? Oh, Shanahan. Now, there's a lot of pieces from the Shanahan office that are coming over, including the head coach. I know he's not running the offense entirely because he's from the defensive side of the ball, but there's a lot of similarities pulled over from Shanahan. It looks like today, Jeff, the pecking order is Coleman, Ty Johnson, Michael Carter. One, do you believe that? Two, you don't need to answer because I know the answer is you want to avoid this at all costs. So skip that question. But the third option is if you had to. Maybe you already had J.K. Dobbins get hurt. Maybe you have to start a Jets. Which Jets running back would you start?
Oh, man, I may have to scroll down a little ways here.
I was going to say, that might be the better question. Where is your first Jet and who is it? My first Jet is Tevin Coleman at 37.
Wow, I'm very much behind you. I hate Tevin Coleman, apparently. I have him at 42. And then I do have Carter at 43. Part of that statement is you should not be dropping Michael Carter. Why
Please
drop
don't.
him?
Please
Because
don't.
there's a news blurb that Tevin Coleman looks good in early September. Who cares? You didn't draft Michael Carter for week 1. Hang on to him. Don't play him. But yeah, desperation, fine. We'll go with the guy who we think is going to get some volume here at least. And honestly, what did we hear, Jake, about Trey Sermon coming in? Oh, he's going to play the Tevin Coleman role in that offense. Well, if they do the same thing, I would assume Tevin Coleman is going to play the Tevin Coleman role in the offense for the Jets. What role does Michael Carter play? Does he play is it the Mostert role or is that Ty Johnson? Is it the, like, I guess you call it the Elijah Mitchell role, the number 3? And is that subject to change? Tevin Coleman had a leg up on everybody because, of course, he had, he knew the offense. But even in Tevin Coleman's best year, it really wasn't a good fantasy option. So if I have to, I'll use him. I don't have any Tevin Coleman, so I'm not in that position. But if you are, it's a desperation flex.
I 100% agree with you on that. I want to avoid that. I don't want to start a single Jets running back. I don't want to start a single Texans running back. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else out there. There might be that I can't think off the top of my head. But hey, I'm going to get back to your question, so drop them in there. There's a few I see that are going to, before we get to the tough calls of the week. So 2 more here. I've said this a lot this offseason, Jeff, is that the Dolphins concern me for Gesicki because 3 wideouts with Will Fuller in the mix. Jalen Waddle in the slot. Gesicki he was actually top 3 in running slot routes for tight ends and top 5 in opportunities, and he still barely checked in as a top 10 tight end, and that's why I'm off Gesicki. That being said, no Will Fuller this week, Jeff. No Stephon Gilmore. There's still the Bill Belichick cloud, though. Are you in on the Tua basically passing game, or are you out? I actually think this is a good place to use them. I think a lot of people are going to see the Patriots and immediately shy away.
I want to see what it looks like before I really push the chips in the middle. I'm not particularly high on Waddle or Parker. And you make a good point. Gesicki's not really he's the ultimate move tight end. He is not going to block at all. He's only going to be basically a big slot receiver for you. So that could prove challenging, like you said. And we're not in a situation where we're running 4 wide, which was, what they would do at times last year for sure. I don't see that happening very often this year. It's volatile. I would love to see Tua get out of the gate really fast, but Tua was one of those guys. If I drafted him, then I probably also drafted like Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins, who's not super sexy, neither one of them this week, but I'll play them. I'll play Matt Ryan against the Eagles. I'll play Kirk Cousins against Cincinnati, as we talked about earlier, just because it's safe. I'm looking at those guys as true fantasy bridge quarterbacks. Like, I'm not bridging to next year. I'm bridging to October or whenever I can figure out who the breakout guy is and hopefully get him into my lineup if I already drafted him or if I had to pick him up like Justin Herbert last year. But I'm on wait and see mode with Miami.
All right. One more wide receiver and then a tight end. The both Moores, I actually made the Moops joke, as everybody knows, from Seinfeld in my column this week. But this is one, assuming Jamison Crowder's out, but I think Elijah could still be sneaky anyway. Crowder's dealing with a core muscle injury, which usually means he's probably not even going to play the full game if he's even out there. And then the Rondale Moore situation is, I said this, Jeff, is like, maybe AJ Green is still sandbagging the preseason because AJ Green at this point of his career is just like, screw it, I don't need to do anything. And it's like Michael Strahan towards the end of his career was like, I wasn't showing up to OTAs, I'm not showing up to training camp, I'll be there day one and I'll be ready to roll. So I say that's the only thing maybe that holds off Rondale Moore. But I already touched on this game. I think, again, you might be in a 14-team league. You might be, hell, our friend in the industry, Brad Evans, just did a 20-team draft over the weekend, which is just like, yeah, exactly. I said the same thing. You want to up your luck factor to a bajillion, go ahead, right? I'm not doing it. But if you're deep, Rondale and Elijah Moore, interested in both, neither one?
I mean, I'm interested in both. I don't think I'd play either necessarily here. And AJ Green, I think the question with Rondale is what we saw in the preseason, is that going to translate to the regular season where they start to manufacture touches in a variety of ways? He does profile certainly basically as a slot receiver, but could they have him on the outside in place of AJ on some of those jet sweep type plays or other plays where they're trying to get the ball in his hand in space? I don't know. I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen here because we know that Kingsbury wants to, open things up. That's what he's always wanted to do. And you get super athletic guys like him in there that really will cater to it. Does he take more snaps away from Christian Kirk as we go forward? That's another question. It does feel like for Elijah Moore in the other situation, a little bit of, Lou Gehrig, Wally Pip, Jamison Crowder kind of, he's locked in. And then there was a weird contract situation, but now he's back and now he's hurt. And you have this kid just waiting in the wings, ready to go, ready to break out. And he's so special. He's so special. He also did a celebration once where he acted like a dog and peed. And they got flagged for it.
I remember that.
But
did Odell do that too years ago?
I think he might have.
I think he got that from somebody. Somebody in the chat probably knows. Real one. Look, I know tight ends aren't fun. They aren't sexy. We already talked about that. But maybe you waited, took Evan Ingram. Maybe you just waited, and you're like, you know what? I'll just play matchups. I think Austin Hooper's at least intriguing for week one. No, I don't want to go this far, but the Chiefs still push the pace, still are one of the most vulnerable against tight ends, despite what happened in the playoff game, because nobody expected that. What was it, 22-17? Mm-hmm. Nobody expected the game to be that. The over-under was like 51 or 52 in that game, and that's close to what it is again this week. You think Austin Hooper could be a sneaky tight end at least for week one?
I have him at 15. Honestly, I went through this on my Sirius XM show this morning.
I have 15 too.
Tight end 8 to tight end 23 or 22.
Trying to find 24. A touchdown?
And they're all the same guy. Yeah, 3 for 32. And if they score a touchdown, you're freaking awesome. You're a genius. You see the future. And if they don't, then that tight end really sucks and he doesn't belong in the NFL. But they're the same guy. And yeah, I actually think there's a decent chance, though, for him. I'm excited to see what the Browns look like this year. I know they're going to be run heavy, but another year of Baker seemed really just calm and confident in the preseason. Anytime I saw him in an interview, and I think that's really telling. I mean, very composed. And hey, does that mean anything? Does it translate to when he's on the field? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but at least gives me a little bit more confidence in him heading into this year that he's going to just pilot that offense as he should. So
wake up dangerous.
Yeah, shoot for a touchdown. You could do a lot worse than Austin Hooper, that's for sure.
Yeah, so all right, so tough calls before we get to those, fire through some of these real quick. Alex Bernstein. So this is not a start-sit question. This is so I did buy low, sell high already, Jeff, because a lot of, you get hype since you drafted. And one of the ones I said was sell high in Damian Harris if you can get top 20 running back value, because we're all assuming it can be great. But it's still Bill Belichick. It's still James White, J.J. Taylor, and I know Stevenson just had this slight injury, but it sounds like he could be okay for week one, if not week two. There is a downside where we get Bill tricked into that first game, and all of a sudden his value goes out the window. So is top 20 enough for you to sell, or would you want a little bit more given how thin running back already is?
Well, top 20 may not get me the running back I want. What are we doing? Miles Sanders? You know, to me, it's 6 and 1, half dozen the other. I'll just kind of
If you need wide receiver help, Robert Woods, is that enough?
Oh, that'd definitely be enough. Yeah,
okay.
That'd definitely be enough. And that's the thing, though. That's usually not the direction people go. A lot of people look right now and they say, I'm so thin at running back. And meanwhile, they send me their running back room. And I'm like, wow, you got a lot more running back depth than I do. I don't see people making that trade. But if you are in a situation where, especially if you drafted early, like we talked about earlier, and you got Gus Edwards, so you have that leverage piece there that you got in the 9th or 10th round. Yeah, Robert Woods, absolutely. DJ Moore, absolutely. Guys like that, top 20 wide receivers, but not top 10 wide receivers, no doubt about it.
All right, let's see if we can get a quick few more in here. Pick 2, Javonte Williams, Corey Davis, and Jamar Chase. I think I'm benching Chase of those until we see him get out of his own head. He might even be out on the field for 2 wide.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I agree.
All right, what else we got here? So there's a Le'Veon Bell question. We answered that at the beginning. Yeah, sure, it could surprise us, but Jeff and I are both betting against it. But, I don't think that you're really going to see much from him, but it wouldn't surprise me. Would you flex Brandon Cooks over Juju and Jacobs in a full-point PPR? I would not, and I'm the Brandon Cooks guy. I actually think at this point, Josh Jacobs is getting too much hate.
I think that's fair. I think he's gotten too much hate all along. People, again, it's another one where let's look at ourselves in the mirror and say this. Like, we're intimidated by Kenyon Drake. Is that why we're down on Jacobs?
Hey, I was texting with Tashawn Reed, who covers the Raiders for The Athletic last night because he was in his fantasy draft, and I didn't prompt him for this text back to me. We're going back and forth, and it started off because he was asking me who I would advise in a certain situation. But anyway, and then we got into the Henry Ruggs discussion. He goes, look for your boy, because he knew I was a Henry Ruggs guy. He's like, look for him to take off this year. He's like, I still don't necessarily believe in Brandon Terrell Owens Edwards was the text he sent me. So here's why. He says the X receiver is what they're looking for. And he said the situation is Edwards and Waller are going to take similar value away, despite people thinking that Waller would run similar routes in space than Ruggs. Ruggs fits better with Waller, in his opinion. And of course, like, this is just coming from one beat reporter, but he thinks Ruggs fits better with the offense with Waller, and that Edwards is going to be cannibalized by Waller being Waller. Like, Waller's not going anywhere. It's just going to hurt Edwards. So all that being said, we're having this conversation. Then he texts me, he goes, I continue to laugh at how ridiculously people are underrating Jacobs as not even a top 20 running back anymore. We're talking about Kenyon Drake. Like, that's exactly what he texted me.
I mean, it's the exact thing I have to say. Now, the reason why I wasn't on him heavily in fantasy drafts, I was ranking him right in that range of top 20, but that was the running back dead zone region. And then every time I looked at wide receiver, I'm like, man, these wide receivers compared to Josh Jacobs,
attractive.
I'll punt and kick it down the lane. I do want to address this Le'Veon Bell question, though. The reason why you don't stash Le'Veon Bell is because he does not have RB2 potential. Le'Veon Bell has
that part
no
of the question?
potential. Yes,
I didn't see the RB2 potential.
I see RB2 potential late in the season. No, you love the name Le'Veon Bell because he was awesome for you in 2016 or something like that. But right
I think
now,
17 was the last year, wasn't it?
Last year, yeah. So right now, Le'Veon Bell is on the practice squad. They signed Trenton Cannon and not Le'Veon Bell to the active roster. We just have to be real with ourselves. I know we know name brand recognition, Coke, Pepsi, Le'Veon Bell, right? But
it was 2017 was the last time because he didn't.
That's the last time. And then he was riding jet skis in 2018.
Yeah, and then the Jets misery, and then the Jets / Kansas City misery last year. All right, before we get back to this list, I think there was one more I saw. Oh, to go to the defenses. So Brian asked, and I want to bring this up because there's a strategy behind it as well. We already talked strategy with defenses, but Brian says, I'm high on the Chargers defense. I seem high on the Chargers defense. Are you high on the new coach and Bosa? It just really comes down to, again, what are the Chargers have a better defense than people realize, one. But two, is you're facing Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is going to take shots. Do I think the Chargers could come out with 2 fantasy points facing Washington, facing Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin? Of course. But on the flip side, I know Fitzpatrick's not going to be afraid to take shots, even if he comes out of this game with 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. It's the 2 picks I'm going for.
You think that's fair? Yeah, I like the Chargers defense, and yeah, it's all about the takeaways.
I'm at 8. It's not like they're that high.
Yeah. So they're playable this week. You know, if we were scoring defenses, I mean, there are only a few commissioner sites who give you these options of 3 and outs and 4th down stops and all of that.
Those are both good, yeah.
And actually losing points for touchdowns allowed, not if you have like, you know, the Blake Bortles pick 6 syndrome where your quarterback throws a pick 6 and then your defense loses
How
points.
are half the sites still doing it the old way? Like,
because they don't care. We go anyway. We play anyway. I mean, if we actually stood up to them a little bit, maybe we get our way. But they don't care. Why would they care?
They don't. Hey, you got a hashtag Rat Pack. You got to call out. There you go, Jeff.
There you go.
Hashtag.
I see you.
All right, so let's get to some of the tough calls. How far down? I guess this will be the simple question. How far down your ranks do I have to get to go before I get to Saquon Barkley?
Not
curious.
far. Not far at all. No.
I have it 15.
Right now, is that in half point PPR,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna default to that to the viewers.
Oh yes, that's always the default forever and ever and ever. Yeah.
I have them at 9. I don't.
Really?
I'm not worried. What is limited role for Saquon Barkley? 18 touches. You know, like
here's my concern. I don't disagree with you at all. And let's be honest. We've seen this in the NFL before, where limited touches, he comes out 5 carries for 70 yards, and all of a sudden they're like, screw this, he's fine,
Yep.
and he's got 20 touches. I have him behind just what I feel like are safer options, like even Zeke going against the Buccaneers. I'd still go Zeke. Antonio Gibson against what I just mentioned with that situation with the Chargers, Najee Harris against Buffalo. It's the touches. That's the only reason I'm at 15, and the second part is, yes, the receiving game helps him. I made that argument on another show just yesterday, Jeff, and I said, yes, everybody wants to talk about week 1. He ran for nothing, but he did 6 for 60 in the passing game.
Yep.
That offensive line still, I mean, he's going to have to do it in the passing game.
I mean, that's fair. I guess part of it too is a statement for me, because I know
bench Barkley.
The over exaggeration, right? Oh, he's going to be limited. Would you start? Let me scroll down. Darrell Henderson over him or something like that, right? No. So, I think part of it was the statement, and I'm going to have him out there. You know, you have Zeke and Barkley. Maybe you have that. I don't know why you would have that decision, maybe in Dynasty. But, I get where you're coming from. Let me ask you this then while we're on it. James Robinson in a cupcake of a matchup or Saquon, who do you have higher?
Barkley, and I'm glad you brought up James Robinson because I did want to get to James Robinson. There was a tweet earlier this morning. It was either Harditz or Jonke. I forget who it was, but whoever it was a GIF, and it was like James Robinson facing the Houston Texans defense, and it was a dude playing with kids, and he's just tossing the kids aside. It was really fun. I said, until... And I did the kid with the crying that did the interview, you know, where he's like, I'm fine. And they start bawling like 2 seconds later with the interview. I said, until we see Urban Meyer give him 11 carries. Like, that's in my mind. And I have James Robinson in leagues. I love James Robinson, the player. People know this from last year, thanks to Emory Hunt. Love James Robinson, the player. I hate Urban Meyer. I am legitimately concerned that also in this game that just like, what if... I think the Houston's offense is a mess, but what if this ends up a pass-happy game and all of a sudden it's not even James Robinson on the field? Like, that's my downside for James Robinson. That's why I have James Robinson down at 18, and people are like, why do you hate James Robinson?
You have him as an RB2, and you absolutely despise him. Yeah,
like
there is
behind
the
Carson, Edwards, Mostert, Edwards-Helaire. Like, I trust that situation more than I trust Urban Meyer.
That's fair. That's fair. We could see Carlos Hyde get 13 carries for 27 yards against that defense. Yeah, it could very well happen.
Drunk on Monday morning from drowning their miseries and what that just happened from Urban Meyer. All right, so I'm going to go to another one. And this has been a very, like, it seems like nobody's down the middle with Mike Davis this entire season. We've actually had this conversation on this show about Mike Davis. They signed Wayne Gallman after being cut. We've actually talked about this, so that's not where I'm going. Mike Davis in week 1. Could Wayne Gallman unseat him? Absolutely. Like, Mike Davis has the one season of replacing CMC. And my argument versus Jeff and a lot of people is volume. I don't care if he averages 3.9 yards per carry. It's the volume. Wayne Gallman, doesn't fit the offense as bad. Like Rudy Gamble brought this up, is that like this is kind of a zone blocking scheme which fits Davis better than Gallman, and Gallman did a lot when the offensive line was breaking down for the Giants. That being said, I still wouldn't be shocked if Gallman ever surpassed him, but I just don't think it's happening anytime soon, especially week 1 when he just got cut by the 49ers and brought in to just replace Allison. Week 1, I'm at least okay going with Mike Davis. Can I get you in on week 1, or are you still not confident enough to?
I'm fine on week 1 because it's him or Cordero Patterson, because I don't think Gallman is up to speed yet. And by the way, even if he isn't necessarily completely comfortable or excelling in zone, they could all, I mean, it's not that difficult to put some gap concepts in there so that he's just running to the gap. But yeah, I agree that ultimately it's going to be a lot closer. You know, he's a better talent than Allison was, but there's no competition this week. The Eagles have historically had a good run defense. We don't know what they're going to look like this year. Everything's going to look different in Philly this year, but it's a volume thing. And that's going to be a fun game. It's a really, really interesting game. Like, you have a great matchup for Hurts and Smith to start the season off, maybe a little bit of a confidence booster against that defense. Same thing, though. The Philly pass defense, I'm not all in on those guys either, but we could see a shadow situation with Slay on Ridley. I mean, there's so many Kyle Pitts going out there, so many different really intriguing aspects to that game. But Mike Davis, this week, I didn't draft him in any leagues, but this week certainly would start him as a front-end RB2.
So I'm going to ask you a question that sets up the player I want to talk about, Jeff. So the entire preseason, everybody's, Saquon Barkley. I don't know if I want to draft him early in the first round. I don't know if I draft him in the first round at all. What if he's not 100%? What if he's like, Saquon Barkley's hit the field. On the flip side, Jeff, this other running back has been injured the entire preseason. This other running back has a better backup behind him than Saquon Barkley does. And this other running back still won't have touched the field until week 1. Just announced he will be starting in week 1. And everybody seems fine with putting DeAndre Swift immediately inside their top 15 running backs. And I'm over here thinking I'm the insane person in a jacket on an island. Tell me I'm not nuts, Jeff, that I shouldn't feel great about DeAndre Swift.
You're not nuts. It's the Jim Carrey Dumb and Dumber thing. The fantasy playing public will do this when they, and some analysts will do this when they get a take on a player. They don't want to hear what the league is telling them. They don't want to hear what the coaching staffs are doing, or any of the indicators, any of the breadcrumbs. They don't want to pick it up. They put their fingers in their ear to go, la, 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 I can't hear you. Anthony Lynn is a stubborn dude, and he said Jamal Williams is his early down back. Dan Campbell has said 100 times and has never walked it back that this is a full-blown committee. This guy has been hurt all along. They view him as a satellite space back. It's volatile. Now, could he be an RB2 as a satellite back in that offense? Absolutely. Could he be an RB1? He would have to be crazy touchdown efficient to do it. I don't want to rule it out, because I don't want people to, old takes exposed, Ratcliffe. Look at you. Yeah, cool, buddy. Thanks. But I don't see it happening just based on the volume. And Jake, we make these injury arguments. What was the old one? Like people would be like, oh, Jimmy Graham's injury prone, and like totally ignore Rob Gronkowski's injuries back in the day. They make the injury narratives for one player and then don't for the other player who is just as worthy of the injury narrative as player A. So yeah, I'm with you. He's very risky here this week for sure. I want to see how things play out. And I'm glad you said that earlier in the show about Jamal Williams. There is value. I don't love Jamal Williams, but there is value to Jamal Williams.
No. By the way, he was super injury prone, according to everybody, is Joe Mixon, by the way.
Yes.
Played 16 games before last year, and the 2 years before that was 14 and 14. I think even one of those games was, I don't remember if one of them was an injury or something else happened. I don't remember. Let me talk. Speaking of injuries, Godwin's situation. Now, we're recording this on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So let me put this to you two different ways, Jeff. One is, obviously, if he's not 100%, do you consider benching Godwin in week 1 because of Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, and they don't need him? If he plays a full practice on Thursday and Friday, I'm assuming it's a full fire go-ahead, correct?
You mean today, right? Godwin?
Yeah.
You said Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
It would be today. I'm just looking at his practice report right now.
Thank you.
I do that all the time too.
Yeah.
No, I do it all the time too. So Antonio Brown didn't practice yesterday as well. I don't know why that's not being discussed.
Really?
Maybe
I didn't even
being
see
called.
that.
He's being called questionable with a knee injury. Godwin was a limited practice, which means a midweek downgrade. Both of them are midweek downgrades, but Antonio Brown didn't even hit the field. So today is pivotal. I'm looking right now. I'm not seeing practice reports today. So if you see DNP for either or both, I mean, we have some problems. Definitely game time decision and would be really volatile to play those guys. But Jake, the answer to your original question is it depends. If I have some depth at wide receiver, then sure, I'm going to fire up a wide receiver 3 in that spot just to play it safe.
Here you go. Let's play it this way. And because this happens a lot, and this will kind of set the stage for the entire season, it's the Thursday Night Football situation. Let's say, and I'll throw out a name. Let's say you can get safe points with Russell Gage. That's like, and I think that's a really good one. Let's just say in the entire season, Russell Gage probably getting you 6, 7, 8 points. On the off chance he gets you 15 one game, but the downside is never really that he's going to score 0. He's just safe points, very limited ceiling. Do you go with the Russell Gage versus the Chris Godwin's going to start, but his status is questionable, and he could play 2 snaps and be out for the rest of the game? Which way do you usually lean because it's a Thursday game?
Yeah, who did we get that out of last year? Somebody like Keenan Allen. I feel like we had a game like that where it was
I think that was
out after only a couple snaps, or whoever it is. It happens every year. Decoy as well. I don't feel like the decoy thing happens as much as it used to. By the way, decoy at wide receiver, sure. Decoy at running back, no. If the dude's playing, he's going to be touching the ball. I think I would probably lean towards the safer bet if it's a Thursday Night Football game because, it is that quick turnaround. And in this instance here, like I said, it's a midweek downgrade. If you go full limited, that means you got hurt during practice. And you could have gotten hurt during practice. It's mild. It was precautionary. It's week 1, whatever. Or it could be somewhat serious. It's a quad injury, so we don't quite know. Did he get, like a quad bruise? Is it some kind of soft tissue thing? No idea. Today's going to be very telling. But yeah, if I have a safer option, I'd probably just go that route if we don't have clarity that he's just good to go.
All right, so 2 more things to get out of here. We're already almost a full hour. This is flying by. Week 1 rankings. You can reminder, by the way, you can hit up Jeff. He doesn't tweet a ton, but you can go check out his rankings. They're up at FTN, correct? Or are they off where? So everybody knows where to go.
Yeah, FTNFantasy.com. Yeah, I'm not sitting on Twitter most of the time because I'm in our Discord at FTNFantasy.com talking to the subscribers over there. And I'm working as well. So not sitting on Twitter, man. Getting the job done.
Yeah, so if you want to go to theathletic.com/capitals, that's not the word, BetsTV, all capitals is what I was saying. You can get the first month free. I have my rankings there. I answer questions in the comments. So if I didn't get to any of yours in the chats with, by the way, thumbs up, please rate, review, 5 stars, subscribe, ding the bell, whatever the stuff is these days. But yeah, please do that. But I'll try to get to those. Jeff's in the, we got your answers. If we didn't get to them, basically that's what we're saying. But please stop by every single week and drop them in here. We'll get to as many as we possibly can. I want to close out with 2 quick things. Jaguars wide receivers, Jeff. DJ Shark. Now, I found a post from when he went into college, and they said his last name is pronounced Shark. I've watched a lot of video where they say Chark. I tweeted him. He didn't answer. I just want to know how his last name is pronounced according to him. Anyway, Shark or Chark, he's going to see his first game action in week 1. Marvin Jones has looked really good, really fast with this team, but he's Marvin Jones. We know Marvin Jones. Chenault, not on the field all the time for 2 wides, a lot of 3 wide sets, and that was before they even cut Colin Johnson, and that was before they were even throwing other options out there. How do you feel about the wide receivers for the Jaguars as a whole? Is it Marvin Jones, avoid the other 2, or do you want to touch any of them? Which way are you going?
I still have no problem with all of them based on where you got them. They all fell compared to where we were. We were pretty high on DJ Chark throughout the bulk of the offseason there. And then the hand injury, obviously, now you were getting it for peanuts in fantasy drafts, so that's fine. You were getting Chenault. He fell because people were concerned about usage. Jones had a little bit of a rise, but not enough where it was like we were drafting Jones in the 6th round or anything. So I'm fine with all of them. I don't want more than one of them on my roster just because I don't know what this offense is going to be. I'm not quite as antagonistic towards Urban Meyer as you are, but I am real with this team that was the worst team in the league or one of last year. And I don't know how much improved they're going to be, Trevor Lawrence or not. So I think Chenault's kind of intriguing. I have them both just on the edge. Chenault, Chark, and well, actually all three of them on the edge, outside looking in at wide receiver 3 territory this week.
All right, and that's certainly a fair spot. I would go with Marvin Jones, too, and this could be a game if a lot of people are making the assumption that Jacksonville actually runs away with this, and they just don't even pass that much. Yeah. That's one way to go with it. So the last one, let's come back to the Giants. It's all about the Giants. It's all about Saquon Barkley and the Giants. Their wide receivers, Jeff, I think we've all agreed that Sterling Shepard was a tremendous value this year, who, by the way, Jeff, is not even 60% rostered on Yahoo, which don't ask me what the heck is happening here. Kenny Golladay, questionable for week 1. So this is where I wanted to present it because we'll have time to find out. If Kenny Golladay plays, do you just try and play him because he's Kenny Golladay? If he doesn't play, is Sterling Shepard a must start? And does that make Darius Slayton an intriguing deep throw? Deep dart throw in leagues, not a deep throw on the field. We know he's a deep throw on the field. I see you scrummaging your face, if that's a word.
Well, because the talk about Kadarius Toney could see some work here too. That's where things get interesting. I mean, we know what Darius Slayton is. If he catches a 50-yard touchdown, awesome. If he doesn't, 1 for 17, cool.
He's there, Tre'Quan Smith.
Yeah, Shepard. Yeah, exactly. Shepard, I guess, would become interesting here. If I drafted Kenny Golladay, though, the nice thing is I probably got him on the cheap, wide receiver at 30, 31, 32, 33, and we know his potential is higher than that if he's actually on the field. So don't be discouraged by it. Just, do whatever you can to get this guy back on the field, whatever kind of mojo you got to work here, because we don't want to repeat of last year. I guess, yeah, Shepard would have to be on the field because we did see in that preseason action that Daniel Jones looked his way quite a lot there at the end of the preseason.
He's been very productive when healthy. Now, he is somebody that legitimately has dealt with injuries almost I think outside of 1 year has actually dealt with injuries. Here's the quick one. I'll get you out of here on this, Jeff. We brought up the Jaguars. Marvin Jones or Kenny Golladay if it's Jeff's fantasy team. Who are you starting?
If Galladay's playing?
Yeah.
I'll go with Golladay.
I'll go with Marvin Jones. That's
there we go. Disagree. Disagreement. That's it.
I want to get out of here on a disagreement. Make sure you're following Jeff at Jeff Ratcliffe. Make sure, again, check everything out on FTN. Drafters, that stuff, 25% bonus that you can get in there. I'm going to be drafting there tonight. You might get in the same draft as me, and you can snipe me and make me really angry. People will love that. theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals, first free month. Love you guys. Be back Monday for the first recap show with Chris Meany, 10 a.m. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. We appreciate you. See you later.